Hi, I'm Christian Miller,
Hey, I'm Jonathan Lupo.
and we are Fealty Group, and this is Capital Conversations. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah, so Christian, actually, really interesting news came out last week with DeRec Alliance, which is a new alliance between Algorand and HBAR, two huge protocols inside of cryptocurrency space. They're creating this partnership and this alliance to bring together Algorand and HBAR Foundation, which basically are two different protocols that are allowing different types of decentralization to occur on chain on the ledger. And what these two are trying to really do is be able to create a decentralized recovery system for crypto assets. This is a huge thing in the industry just because once a crypto asset is sent or spent, there really is no way to recover those assets. However, Algorand and HBAR are starting to come out with a cool new protocol to be able to hopefully be able to recover those at one point, which is going to be huge for trusts and banks for the institutional play down the road.
That's huge. That's massive. And I guess in other news here, U.S. labor markets surprised yet again. In December, 216,000 jobs were created, surpassing expectations. In addition, the unemployment rate low once again, 3.7%. So the market, the economy have outperformed expectations. The year 2023 was the year of the recession that never came. um, but in regards to the jobs that were created, there was a few sectors that the vast majority of the jobs were established in, and that was government, 52,000 new roles, healthcare, 38,000, leisure and hospitality, 40,000. So the economy looked strong. The only concern that we did see was that inflation due to wages did tick up some, right? 0.4% doesn't sound like a big number, but it is something to keep an eye on as the Fed is talking about potentially lowering interest rates. That could, change their mind in the short term. So
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, especially for the leisure side of that, with the industry being hit so much during the COVID time,
yeah,
and it's actually
absolutely.
starting to add jobs. That's actually a good thing to hear. But to kind of coincide with that inflationary mark that you just made, kind of bringing it outside of U.S. borders. One of the cool things that Coinbase is doing, the huge institutional flagship of cryptocurrency, they're teaming up with Yellow Card, which is a huge stablecoin exchange in Africa. It's actually the largest stablecoin exchange in Africa. And this is hugely beneficial for the whole continent because to paint the picture here, Africa is actually the youngest continent on the planet, which means that they are very susceptible to evolution to a decentralized financial system. So what this means is, and what Coinbase is trying to accomplish with Yellow Card, is that they're allowing these countries and these citizens of Africa to be able to have access to something like a US stable dollar or a US stable coin on that exchange, which is hugely advantage for them because of the extremely high inflation that's hit those countries and all those different currencies over there. They now kind of have a really pegged system at $1 for the US, which could open up a lot of doors on the road for a decentralized financial system.
Oh, that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. Like you said, Africa, the youngest continent in the world, they have the ability to potentially jump some economic systems, get right into crypto, and be a leader in that space.
Yeah.
And as I hinted previously, the December minutes came out for the Fed. They are hinting at lowering interest rates finally. They're talking about potentially lowering interest rates 3 times, just 25 bips each
Okay.
time. Not major, but it's a possibility. Right now we're sitting, between 5.25% and 5.5%. So taking that into account, they're anticipating to be sitting between, 4.5, 4.75 near year end.
Okay.
Investors are expecting much more than that.
Okay.
Investors are expecting more aggressive rate hikes. They're expecting the possibility of 6 to 7 rate hikes, ending the year at 3.75 to 4%.
Hmm.
It's ultimately going to depend on a flurry of different economic events that are going to take place. Uh, Only time will tell. Only time will tell what's going to happen moving forward, whether the Fed has the ability to even do 3 rate hikes,
Hmm.
or I apologize, 3 rate decreases. But who knows? Who knows? I personally, I think that investors are probably being a little bullish here. I think that the market as a whole has been performing well. It's been performing well in light of high interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation is still higher than we would like it. So I don't see personally a reason to rush this and start lowering rates too quickly or too aggressively. We just don't know what that's going to do to inflation, if they're going to have to then backtrack, potentially decreasing any of the gains or the improvements in the economy that we've made over the past 3 years here. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting that came about.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely interesting because I mean just imagine the whirlwind of the Fed just last year talking about cutting rates or I'm sorry starting with the Fed about raising rates last year. Now they're talking about cutting rates just like that. 24 hits and that's the next segment that they move to. It's just goes to show you how quickly the markets can move and how quickly they react to things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So taxes. Let's get down to taxes when it comes to crypto. Everybody hates them, right? But one of the crazy stats that I read was that about 58% of crypto owners are actually reporting their taxes. So that leaves about 42% of them that are not reporting their taxes, and that's a huge red flag for the IRS and all the other regulators. One of the big hurdles in this industry is the reporting of taxable income on the crypto side. So just a couple notes just to be prepared for as we approach tax season. Crypto is both taxed at the income level and the capital gains level. You do want to be able to follow your Form 8949, which will then lead into a Schedule D on your 1040. Of course, obviously consult with any CPA or tax advisor, before making any final decisions on that. But it's something that we need to note here because it is something that the regulators and the government and everybody else who's in charge wants to see on the crypto side of things for us to kind of open the doors up to the next level of progress.
Yeah, well, I don't like taxes personally, but
yeah, me neither.
Yeah, right. Fair enough, though, right? The government's going to do what they're going to do. They're going to take. So, I guess to continue on what I was previously discussing in regards to the possibility of the decreasing of interest rates, there's a couple of things that we as investors can potentially do to maximize returns in these situations. First and foremost, I think the one thing that we have to be cautious of is to not get too bullish. And that might not make a whole lot of sense. It might seem contrary to the idea of decreasing rates. But in the short term, historically, the market has moved lower in the short term, mind you, when decreasing rates. Intermediate, long term, we've seen tailwinds pushing the economy forward, increasing the stock market's value. But short term, everybody just be a little cautious. I know we're all excited about the talks of this, but we just have to remain a little cautious. There's a couple areas, though, that I think are fair game. CDs. Hopping on CDs right now, you can get them at high interest rates still, right? If the decrease of interest rates does take place, right, you are now maximizing the returns that you could potentially get on those CDs, right?
Yeah.
Secondarily, bonds. As interest rates decrease, bond prices increase, right? Bonds have been crushed the last few years as interest rates have increased. This is a potential opportunity to get some gains in your portfolios. It's not sexy, right? I personally like stocks, I like equities, but being invested in bonds right now, you could see some benefits there. Lastly, REITs, right? So real estate investment trusts, they're going to have the opportunity potentially, later in the year to start borrowing money at lower interest rates, right? That is historically a huge tailwind for real estate investment trusts. Profitability goes up, stock prices go up. So that's what we're kind of looking at here. Again, be hesitant. There's a lot of things that are going on in the economy that could change what could potentially happen moving forward. But as of right now, I think that those are some areas that we could potentially tackle to try and increase the potential gains that we have in our portfolios.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, like you said, it's not sexy, but hey, you know what? It works. And especially in these environments right now, it's something to definitely consider and something that, I think is a prudent choice to look into. When it comes to crypto, one of the huge topics that happened with the Ethereum blockchain network is that Vitalik, who is the creator and the founder of Ethereum, has actually made a huge increase of the gas limit, which is, if you know anything about Layer 2 or Ethereum 2.0 or the ERC 2.0 protocol, which is kind of the next step of Ethereum. A lot of it operates off those gas limits, and the exchanges use those to be able to power the computers to be able to mine the actual Ethereum or whatever protocol that you're actually mining, to be able to give it the energy to do what it has to do. Now, anytime you hear of a gas increase, especially in the traditional market, never usually a good thing, right? Nobody wants to pay a higher price for gas. However, what this will do, and what the whole plan of what Vitalik is trying to do, is essentially a higher gas limit for larger transactions is then going to make a lower gas fee for a smaller transaction. So really what he's trying to do is truly move Ethereum to the next layer 2, and make those gas fees as minimal as possible, specifically for a smaller investor who may just trying to get their feet wet or is just trying to get started in the industry. It's very daunting to look at a gas fee and say, oh my God, that's huge chunk of what I'm investing. Just like with trading fees on different exchanges, the gas fee is that for crypto. So he's overall marginally trying to lower the gas fees, which I think is an important topic to bring up, because anytime you see that headline, you always think bad news, but in this case, it's actually something good down the road.
Awesome. I'm going to bring up a company who has been crushed since COVID. They had quite a roller coaster. It's Peloton. They are in the news for good reasons, finally. So very similarly to when they partnered with Lululemon, they are now partnering with TikTok. So Peloton and TikTok are now creating a TikTok fitness app on TikTok where the billion users have the capabilities of working out with their favorite celebrities, Peloton athletes, I guess you would call them. And it's really interesting. I'm glad that Peloton is moving into different spaces to try and expand their revenue and hopefully increase profitability moving forward. The market loved this news, up 15% on that news, so massive. Hopefully that increase and the stock price is well worth it, and that investment that TikTok and Peloton are making in one another is worthwhile, and it's a merger that has some synergy there. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love it too. Anything with health, fitness, anytime you can get in front of more people, like a company like Peloton to get in front of more people, especially younger people developing habits at a young age, which TikTok is obviously a more younger, next generational type of app. That's great stuff, and hopefully they can retain those gains and keep chugging the train forward.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Lastly with crypto, obviously huge news last week. The Bitcoin spot ETF was passed by the SEC. All 11 were passed and are now openly trading on the market. Kind of ties a little bit more into your aspect of things, but Elizabeth Warren has always been a huge doubter and hater of the cryptocurrency field. She's currently slamming the SEC right now for not following anti-money laundering protocols.
There we go. That's it.
Anti-money laundering protocols in the USA Patriot Act, because she's saying that with a spot Bitcoin ETF, that they can't fully account for who's spending money and where it's going, which has always been a concern in the cryptocurrency field. It's the whole point of decentralization is that it is the anonymity of it is attractive to certain users. However, I do get her point on the regulation side that they do need to kind of be able to track these different types of transactions and where money's going. We don't want to be financing terrorism or anything like that. That's obviously something that's kind of shadowed the cryptocurrency world for the past decade and more. But truthfully, I think Elizabeth Warren is wrong here. The spot Bitcoin ETF is just simply tracking the price of the spot of Bitcoin. It's not actually owning Bitcoin when you buy the ETF. So I think overall, in terms of the market, I think it's a good gauge for us to have on the open market, because it truly gives us a spot price of Bitcoin on the open market. And that gives us a lot more price relativity when it comes to the actual price of Bitcoin. There isn't as much arbitrage between all the different exchanges. That's the end hope of the ETF, but we'll see what's happening. But it is an important point to point out that Elizabeth Warren and some other regulators on her side are not really necessarily hopeful.
Fans, yeah, they're not fans, but I do think that it's a good move in the right direction. Clearly, it's going to get a lot more investors involved as a potential diversification tool. But yeah, we'll wait and see how everything plays out. The last thing that I want to do here, I thought that this would be fun. I was reading a Yahoo Finance article, and every year, at the end of the year, they ask the readers and investors through Yahoo some predictions that that could potentially transpire in the next year, right? So in 2024, they had some interesting ones. So I'm going to share that with you guys, and then we'll give our opinions on this. The first one, not in your alleyway. It's politics.
Okay.
The first one here is twofold. One, or maybe we'll just get into this. Prediction for the presidential election. Who do you think is going to be president?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to ask me, I hate to be the one that says this because, especially what you saw yesterday in Iowa, there's a floor sweep for support of Trump in Iowa. Not saying I'm a supporter of him. We all know what Trump is and what he stands for. The thing about him that I think is going to allow him to win the presidency is that he's all about America. Obviously, make America great again. It's his big slogan. Make it a great again. It's something that's very repetitive, but he does stand by his word when it comes to that. He did bring all those jobs back in. He did bring all those industries back in, and our economy was booming, under his presidency. And to be honest, I hate to say this because of the type of person he is, but I think that he will win.
You think that he's going to win it?
Yeah.
That's interesting that you said that. It seems like the majority of the people also believe that Trump will be president in 2024, that he will be elected. Interestingly enough, though, there was quite a dichotomy there. So while a large proportion of the people thought that Trump was going to be elected, a large proportion also thought that he was going to be criminally convicted and be barred from being president.
What a crazy world.
It's a crazy world. It'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. Politics might be the one avenue that is even crazier than the stock market. So it'll be interesting to see if Trump does not win. Who do you think wins? Do you think it is Biden? Do you think that a Gavin Newsom ends up replacing Biden? Do you think that another Republican candidate ends up getting in? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't think another Republican is going to beat out Trump. But Gavin, I mean, on the Democratic side, I think that he's just way more of a promising ticket than Biden is at this point. I mean, I'm not one to say I'm somebody's mental condition or their health condition of any sorts. I'm definitely not a doctor of any sorts. But I mean, it just seems like, he's at that age now where most people have retired decades ago. Most people have kind of put their hat up, hung their hat up, and have really kind of sat back and let the next generation come in. And I think it would be smart for the Democratic ticket to take Gavin just because of that aspect of things. I would hate to see a Biden go into another presidential race against a likely candidate like Trump, where he's just going to tear into that. And he's not going to let that go.
Yeah.
And it's just going to hurt the guy personally, but also if he wins as the presidency again, I just don't know if he's competent enough to do it again. And that's where I stand. I think Gavin will be a better ticket for that.
I think this is going to be interesting. I think that the beginning of this video here was probably pretty even keeled, and I think that a lot of people now who get to this point, if you have gotten to this point and haven't turned off this video, might get a little heated during this section. Just know that we are not political pundits.
Nope.
Do not listen to us. What we're saying are just projections or predictions moving forward. We truly, I personally do not care who ends up winning, but I don't want to cop out and not give my prediction either. I do think that it is likely that former President Trump ends up winning the election. I think that he obviously has issues with the legality of the situations with January 6th and whatnot. But We'll see. We'll see. If that takes him out, I could see somebody like a Nikki Haley, filling in that role.
And I think that she would be a perfect person to fill that role.
Yeah. I mean, and she's obviously very different to Trump, more establishment oriented, which a lot of people are not going to like. But she does seem to be somebody who can potentially fill that middle ground a little bit
more diplomatic.
Get more support from the other side and independents, and potentially win that. I have a tough time believing that Biden or somebody who potentially fills in for him later on, if God forbid his health doesn't allow him to continue, will win. I do think it'll be a Republican candidate who wins. So hold us accountable for these, but just realize again that we really do not care. The second one that I am seeing here is investor optimism. Okay. 65% of respondents believe that the market is going to rise in 2024.
Okay.
And the majority of those respondents believes that it will be up more than 10%, with tech leading. What do you think?
65%?
65% think that it's going to increase. More than half of that proportion of people believes that it will be up more than 10%, and they believe that tech is going to be the sector moving it forward in 2024.
Yeah, honestly, from the paper of everything, just looking at the paper side of things and just simply looking at the markets, I would agree. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see an over 10% year. I am confident that tech will lead. However, I would not be surprised if this is a year of rotation, if you will, where last year, what was the S&P up about 24% year to date? NASDAQ up a lot more than that. I think that this year you'll see a lot of money managers, a lot of big heads that are managing these portfolios and these large 401k plans start to take some chips off the table, start taking some profits off the table that they had in 2023, realizing them in 2024, and with that realization of that top profit taking, maybe shift a little bit of that capital into something more lagging, like a Russell 2000 or small cap or mid cap stocks that may still be tech, which is kind of where I would guess and hedge my bet is the tech side of the small cap and mid cap, just because there's so much growth potential with AI and crypto ETF coming out now. There's so much buzz around the industry of tech and how that's going to portray going forward for the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's a tough one to say, actually. I do think it's going to be an up year. I don't think it's going to be cumulatively above 10% across the board like 2023 was.
Okay. So you think that it will be up single digits, and you do believe that tech is going to lead the market?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. Where I would put my chips.
Perfect. I think I'm going to take the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that optimism is incredibly high in the market in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, as we saw in 2023, when optimism was incredibly low and we believed that a recession was imminent, the opposite happened, right? And we saw an incredibly powerful market. The economy grew faster than anticipated. I think that we have the potential this year that everything is priced to play out perfectly. And any small hiccup that takes place could potentially move the S&P, lower.
Yeah.
So I'm hesitant to say that it will be negative, but my gut instinct is telling me that the rate hikes, even though they took place, quite a bit ago, are going to start impacting the economy a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to increasing per capita debt.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
Yeah. Phantom debt is something that, is something that is almost uncalculable. The buy now, pay later plans. It's tough for me to believe that the amount of debt that we have taken on as a country will not hinder consumer spending, which will then hinder GDP, which will then potentially hinder the market as a whole. So
Snowball
yeah,
effect.
a snowball effect, exactly. So yeah, I think that optimism is high. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that the market continues to go up, but I would say again, be optimistically hesitant moving forward. I imagine the market, staying pretty level, moving up and down,
Some chop,
10,
some good old
10,
chop.
10 points here and there, 10% here and there. But yeah, I think that it has all the signs of being a down year because of the headwinds that are potentially at play, in addition to the optimism that is in the market right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess with that being said, on a secondary note, I think that tech is probably going to underperform the market as a whole. I do not believe that is due to the fact that the majority of tech stocks are going to do that. But I do believe that there's going to be a rotation out of the Magnificent Seven, who have had an incredible run. Nvidia up over 200%, Meta, Microsoft. I mean, all of them have performed incredibly well. Most of which I believe are overvalued.
I mean, you're talking PE ratios in triple digits.
Yeah,
in
some cases, right? So I mean, obviously, Nvidia, Microsoft have the AI play, which is huge. It's almost an immeasurable benefit to have right now.
Yeah.
But it's tough to continue those increases in price, right? So that's my projection. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I'm seeing things right now.
Yeah, it's interesting too because one of the things that we really haven't touched too much on in this this session here is the geopolitical risk. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now that's just unexplainable and to be honest, unacceptable at so many levels. But it unfortunately happens, and those things could throw a huge headwind into the markets and throw everything for a spiral. So
absolutely,
being hesitant but being proactive is that's good advice.
Absolutely. Speaking of geopolitical, one of the other projections or predictions, I should say, involves that.
Okay.
It involves China. The prediction is that China will try to invade Taiwan in 2024. Do you believe that will happen? We're touching all bases here, mind you. We're an investment firm. But again, I thought that this would be relatively interesting to hit on politics, the market, geopolitical, and then maybe some black swan events after this.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if you're an investor, and especially if you've been doing this for some time, you know that in this world you have to check all your boxes. There's nothing that's left out, and that it is a good question. It's a valid question. There's been a lot of tension over there for the past almost 2 years now. China has this belief that the West, including the U.S., NATO, all of us are very against them, and honestly, kind of right in a way, and I think because of that, it's pushing them to be a little bit more power hungry, and they're seeing all the other conflicts going on in the world, and they're thinking, well, why not one more to kind of gain that territory back from them, which I don't believe that they should own Taiwan. I think Taiwan has its own economy, its own people, its own way of life that respectfully wants to be quite different from the communist rule of China. And shout out to them for being that close to a huge country like that and defending themselves and sticking up for themselves. And I think a lot of that answer is going to come down to the presidency. Are we going to have a strong president or are we going to have a weak president? And unfortunately, there's pros and cons to both sides of that, but I do believe in the fact that if we do have a strong president who is pro-military, I just don't think that China's going to push that button.
I do not believe that they're going to invade Taiwan. I think that our economies are too intertwined. I think that the negative impacts of doing something like that are just far too great for the benefits that they would achieve in taking Taiwan. It just doesn't seem feasible to me. I think that China moving forward obviously wants to instill some sense of ownership and power over the East. They're a superpower in that area, and they want to use that. But I don't believe that they would take the steps to moving forward and actually invading or a war breaking out. It seems unlikely to me. I hope in this situation, I hope that I'm right. But yeah, it just doesn't seem feasible.
Yeah, I agree. I just think the cons outweigh the pros so much, and like you said, our economies are just way too intertwined with each other to where, yes, they don't like everything that we do over here in the West, but they realize that without us, their economy would crumble pretty quickly.
Sure. Okay. The last one, a fun one. The adoption of a 4-day work week in the United States.
Oh man. Oh man. Well,
I know we wouldn't adopt that. We never sleep. We work every single day, 24/7.
I don't even know what a work day is because the whole day.
Yeah, the whole week's a work day. But I guess for the majority of the workforce who does work a 40-hour work week, working Monday through Friday, do you believe that is something that happens in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question because, and especially for our generation, right? Like our generation is very, very evenly split. There's a lot of people that are, I would say there's more people that are pro working from home and having that 4-day week of work because they feel as if they're going to be a little bit more focused, a little bit more attentive during that 4 week, not as burnt out feeling,
right? More
refreshed, and they think that the outcome of that's going to be more production, a happier workforce. At the end of the day, I mean, I think it all depends on what kind of position you're in. If you're just kind of like the working ant, which there's nothing wrong with being, I would be on the side of, let's do a 4-day week all day because, obviously everybody knows the Saturday and Sunday just doesn't seem to last long enough. There's so many things you have to do in your personal life on those 2 days. But at the end of the day, my business side of me does not agree with it. I don't think that, if I had employees, I don't think that I would get as much production out of them. I don't think I would give as much focus as much as they think that they would.
Sure.
I'm more of a believer of creating a work environment that's more adequate to how somebody works instead of reducing the time of how much they work.
Okay.
I think, the Google kind of approach to it, work how you want, when you want, where you want, if possible, is a better approach to saying, okay, we're only working for 4 days.
Sure. Okay.
That's
so you do not think that it's going to happen?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't either. I mean, some successfully, some unsuccessfully have adopted the work from home positions, right? Working remotely. As we've seen, that is something that a lot of companies are now pushing back on. It's now becoming a requirement to either work fully in office or pick up a hybrid schedule.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they are going to, and when I say they, I mean the big companies, corporations, the employers.
Elon Musk hates it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I do not see them, while bringing people back into the office, then deciding, okay, we're going to then limit the amount of work that they're going to do on a weekly basis, right? Like the whole reason for having them come back to the office is because they have felt that productivity has decreased, and I just don't think we're there yet to where a 4-day work week is going to happen. Obviously there are places in Europe who have adopted this for a rather long time. But yeah, it's just I don't see it happening. Maybe in the future, but the United States, I mean, we've always worked incredibly hard, far more than every other country. And I think that it's fair to us.
What makes us great?
Yeah, I think that it's fared us incredibly well. So, I would be really, really shocked if that did take place. But I thought it was a pretty interesting one. A pretty interesting prediction.
I mean, it's all over the media. I mean, you see it everywhere. Like I said, Elon Musk hates it. He's actually let go of several employees, big C-suite employees for advocating for it. It's something that he's strongly against. Not saying that Elon's always right, but I mean,
absolutely.
The guy's obviously built several successful companies. He knows what it takes. So, it's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you who have stayed to the very end of this video. This is our first one. We're hoping to continue to improve moving forward. So be a little easy on us.
Yeah, cut us some slack.
Yeah, cut us some slack here. I know we probably derailed here and there, and it may have not been exactly what we are anticipating or what you guys were anticipating. But what our idea is moving forward on a weekly basis, we're looking to provide you weekly updates on things that have taken place in the stock market, the crypto market, as well as just business news that's transpired. We're investment advisors in the state of New York, and what we're really looking to do on this platform is to provide as much free value as we possibly can. So any of the early viewers of this channel, the early commenters, you guys are going to have a lot of say in what it is that we produce moving forward. So if there are topics that you would like us to cover, whether it's investment related, crypto oriented, personal finance related, just let us know, and we'll be open to producing a swath of different kinds of content for you guys, and whatever it is that you guys, like I said, find the most valuable. In addition, if you guys are looking for a company to either provide you with investment research for your do-it-yourselfers, we do have investment research available, so you can always feel free to reach out to us in regards to that. And lastly, for the individual who is looking to have professional advice in both the stock market and personalized crypto portfolios, something that is not offered regularly by registered investment advisors, feel free to reach out to us. With that being said, you can look forward to, like I said, weekly posts from us. And this, again, is Capital Conversations.
Boom.